He was just an old apartment janitor. For 15 years, he worked at the same Manhattan Heights building, cleaning, handling small repairs, politely greeting tenants, and no one ever questioned who he really was, until that suspicious package was left in the building's entrance hall. Police called the bomb squad, but the nearest team was 45 minutes away. The building housed 47 families, 89 people, including children. But when that old janitor saw the package, he understood something that made everyone's blood run cold. Welcome to Hidden Hero Stories. Before we begin this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be told, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Manhattan Heights Apartments was a luxury 23-story apartment complex in New York's Upper West Side. Built in the 1980s, equipped with modern security systems, it was a prestigious place where middle to upper income families lived. Most tenants were young professionals, families, and retirees. George Patterson, 67, was the building's head maintenance supervisor and doorman. Medium height, lined face, always neatly dressed, calm demeanor. He'd worked at this apartment for 15 years. He came in every morning at 7, left at 7 p.m. He was reliable, honest, quiet. Building manager Linda Martinez trusted George completely. Without George, this building would collapse, she'd always say. Indeed, George handled everything, from electrical failures to water leaks, from elevator problems to heating issues. Tenants loved George. Always friendly, always helpful. He'd do grocery shopping for elderly Mrs. Wilson. The Johnson family's small children, Emma and Luke, called George Grandpa George and drew pictures for him. But George had some peculiar habits. For instance, he examined every package and every visitor very carefully, as if he were a security expert. When checking doors, he'd behave strangely too, not just checking if they were locked, but examining frames, hinges, even under the doors. Young software developer Alex Chen had once asked, "George, why do you check so carefully? Are you paranoid?" George had laughed. "Alex, being careful isn't paranoia. It's a security matter. 89 people live in this building. Their safety is my responsibility." This answer seemed too serious for a janitor, but Alex didn't press further. George's day started the same way every morning. He'd wake up at 6:30, make coffee, listen to local news. But his news listening was unusual. He closely followed security news, terror warnings, suspicious activity reports. When he arrived at the apartment at 7 o'clock, his first task was checking security cameras. He'd watch what happened overnight, noting anything abnormal. Then, he'd walk through every floor of the building, checking emergency exits, fire escapes, security equipment. These routines were much more detailed than a normal janitor would do. George seemed to follow military procedures, everything systematic, everything methodical. Linda Martinez sometimes wondered about George. "George, why do you take this job so seriously? It's just maintenance work." George had looked at her. "Linda, I'm not just doing maintenance. I'm protecting 89 people's lives. This requires responsibility." George's small office in the basement had strange things. In one corner were old military equipment, multimeter, metal detector, various tools. George said these were hobby tools, but no one knew exactly what he used them for. Also, George's movements were very careful. When something got stuck in the building, he'd examine it as if looking with X-ray eyes. When handling packages, he'd behave strangely too, first feeling the weight, examining the shape, then bringing it to his ear to check for sounds. Alex Chen had once seen this and asked, "George, why did you put the package to your ear?" George had hesitated but answered, "Sometimes packages rattle inside. Could be fragile items, need to be careful." Technically true, but the reality was very different. Manhattan Heights housed very diverse tenants, young professionals, families, elderly, students. George got along well with everyone, but especially loved children. The Johnson family's children, Emma, 8, and Luke, 6, were George's favorite tenants. Every day when they returned from school, they'd run to George shouting, "Grandpa George!" George would always pull small gifts from his pocket, stickers, small toys, sometimes candy. "George, you love children so much," Maria Johnson had said one day. "Do you have children of your own?" George had stopped, looked into the distance. I did. A very long time ago. What happened? Life. Life happened. That was it. He didn't elaborate. Maria didn't press. George's closest friend in the apartment was retired teacher Mrs. Eleanor Wilson, who lived on the 14th floor. 78 years old, living alone. George showed her special attention, did her grocery shopping, never missed his weekly checks. "George, you're an angel," Mrs. Wilson would say. "I don't know what I'd do without you." George would smile. "Mrs. Wilson, people your age need protection. This is my duty." But George's way of using the word duty seemed too military for a civilian job. Friday morning, March 22nd, George came to the apartment at 7 a.m. as usual. While checking security cameras, he noticed an anomaly. At 2:30 a.m., an unknown person had approached the building, left a package in the entrance hall, and quickly disappeared. George immediately went downstairs. In the entrance hall, at the edge of the marble, sat a medium-sized cardboard box. No address, no label on it, just a black box. George approached the package but didn't touch it. First, he examined it carefully. Size, approximately 30 by 20 by 15 centimeters. Weight appeared to be 2 to 3 kilos. Shape, rectangular, but seemed to contain irregular objects inside. Then, he brought his ear close. Very faint, but there was a constant ticking, a mechanical sound, like a clock. George's blood ran cold. This looked very much like a bomb. He immediately called Linda Martinez. "Linda, come downstairs urgently, but don't panic." When Linda came, George explained the situation. "No one left this package. Someone unknown left it at 2:30 a.m. There's a mechanical sound inside." "What do you mean?" "Linda, this could be a bomb." Linda's face went pale. "Are you sure?" "I'm not sure, but we can't take the risk. Call police, call the bomb squad." 10 minutes after the 911 call, police arrived. The first officer, Martinez, no relation to Linda, assessed the situation and immediately called the bomb squad. "Where's the nearest team?" George asked. "Brooklyn. It'll take 45 minutes. George worried. 45 minutes is too long. If this is a real bomb, it could have a timer. Officer Martinez looked at him. "Do you know anything about bombs?" George paused. He'd been expecting this question, but the answer was dangerous. "A little. From TV, movies. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either." Meanwhile, apartment tenants began coming downstairs to go to work. Police closed the building entrance, not allowing anyone to leave. Alex Chen came down. "What's happening?" "Suspicious package," said Officer Martinez. "Could be a bomb. We might need to evacuate the building." "A bomb?" Alex panicked. "A real bomb?" George approached him. "Alex, stay calm. We're not sure yet, but we need to be careful." Meanwhile, the Johnson family also came downstairs. Emma and Luke were ready for school. When they heard the word bomb, they got scared. "Grandpa George," Emma said, "are we safe?" George crouched down, looked into Emma's eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, you're safe. I'm here." But George's mind was calculating differently. 45 minutes was too long. If this was a real bomb and it had a timer, it could explode within that time. George examined the package again, this time closer, more technically. Without getting too close to the box, he swept around it with a security scanner, with his metal detector. The signal was strong. There were definitely metal parts inside, and the sound continued, regular, mechanical, like a clock. George's 22 years of EOD experience was kicking in. This fit the profile of an improvised explosive device, IED, very well. Timer-based, probably with pressure plate trigger. Officer Martinez approached. "What do you think?" George hesitated. Telling the truth meant revealing his past, but 89 people's lives were at risk. "Officer Martinez, this looks very much like a bomb. I think it's timer-based." "How can you tell?" George took a deep breath. "Because I used to do this job. For a long time." "What do you mean?" "Army EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, 22 years. Officer Martinez's mouth fell open. "You're a bomb disposal expert?" "Former. Very former." Linda Martinez, building manager, looked at George in amazement. "George, you were a bomb expert? Why didn't you ever say, 'Because that life is behind me, Linda. I'm just a janitor now'?" Officer Martinez intervened. But right now, we need your expertise. Can you analyze this bomb? George looked at the package again. There were 89 people in the building. There were children. There were Emma and Luke. I can analyze it, but I won't touch it. Until the bomb squad arrives, I can only do monitoring. Oh my God, said Alex Chen. George, you are a real bomb expert? Which wars? Iraq, Afghanistan, 2001 to 2023. Alex's eyes widened. You dealt with bombs for 22 years? Thousands of them. Roads, buildings, vehicles, IEDs, suicide bombs, booby traps. The Johnson family had also come and was listening. David Johnson asked, So why did you retire? Why did you come here? George pointed to the children. Because I wanted to protect people, not deal with making bombs anymore. George began analyzing the package in detail with his EOD knowledge. He listened to the timer sound frequency. Approximately 60 beats per minute, standard clock mechanism. This indicated it was a timed bomb. In metal detector scans, he detected classic IED components, timer, detonator, probably C4 or similar plastic explosive. Officer Martinez, this is definitely an IED. Timer-based, approximately 2 to 3 pound explosive, could seriously damage the building. How much time do we have? George listened to the timer sound more carefully. I don't know when the timer started, but there's a continuous tick. It's active. Meanwhile, Mrs. Wilson came downstairs. The 78-year-old woman panicked when she learned the situation. A bomb? A real bomb? Oh, God! George approached her. Mrs. Wilson, stay calm. I'm here. Nothing will happen to you. But George, how do you... I used to do this job, Mrs. Wilson. I won't let you get hurt. Meanwhile, a call came over Linda's radio. The bomb squad had left Brooklyn, but due to traffic they'd be at least 40 more minutes. George worried. 40 minutes is too risky. I don't know when this timer will expire. Officer Martinez asked, Can you intervene? Legally, no. I'm no longer active. Insurance, liability, protocol. But technically, George paused. Technically he could, but he hadn't done bomb disarming for 15 years. Just then, the timer sound changed. It accelerated. From 60 to 120 beats per minute. This indicated they were approaching explosion. Timer accelerated, George said. Final countdown has started. How much time do we have? According to standard IED protocol, final phase lasts 15 to 20 minutes. Officer Martinez shouted into his radio in panic, Bomb squad, emergency! Timer accelerated. Need immediate assistance. Response. Still 35 minutes out. Traffic blocked. George surveyed the building. Evacuating 89 people in 15 minutes was impossible. Elevators were slow, stairs narrow, there were elderly and children. Emma Johnson approached George. Grandpa George, I'm scared. George crouched down, hugged Emma. Emma, I promise you, I'll protect you. How? George looked into Emma's eyes. Because I'm a hero. Did you know that? Emma smiled. Really? Really. George stood up. He'd made his decision. Officer Martinez, I'm intervening. But legal? Damn the legal procedures. There are 89 people here, 17 of them children. George brought his EOD toolkit from his basement office. Tools he hadn't used for 15 years but never threw away. Wire cutters, multimeter, no bomb suit, but he had a basic disarming kit. Everyone back off, he shouted. 50 feet distance. Get the children upstairs. Alex Chen asked, Can I help? No, EOD is a single operator job. If I make a mistake, only I die. George approached the package, hands steady, breathing controlled. 22 years of experience was returning. First step, open the box, carefully, slowly. There could be booby traps. When the box opened, the contents were visible. Digital timer, 1234, 1233, 1232, plastic explosive C4, detonator, and trigger mechanism. Classic IED design. George had seen thousands of them. He looked at the timer. 12 minutes left. Second step, detonator isolation. Red wire, blue wire, ground wire. Standard configuration. George measured voltage with the multimeter. Active circuit. Which wire should he cut? 1145 or 1144, 1143. George's training kicked in. Red wire power, blue wire trigger, ground wire safety. It was always like this in standard NATO bombs, but this was an improvised device. Rules could be different. George examined other components in the package. Amount of C4, approximately 2 pounds. Enough to destroy half the building. 10 minutes, 30 seconds, 29 seconds, 28 seconds. He picked up the wire cutter. Which wire? Blue wire should be trigger. But if there was reverse wiring, the bomb would explode when blue wire was cut. George looked at the timer again. 10 minutes. Officer Martinez shouted from a distance, "George, get out of there! Bomb squad will be here in 5 minutes." "There's no 5 minutes," George replied. "Timer shows 10 minutes. 9 minutes, 45 seconds, 44 seconds, 43 seconds. George touched the blue wire, checked the voltage meter. There was an active signal. This was the trigger wire. But what if he was wrong? Emma's voice came from upstairs. "Grandpa George, I love you." George smiled. He'd made his decision. He cut the blue wire. 8 minutes, 30 seconds, 29 seconds, 28 seconds. The timer stopped. When the timer stopped, the entire apartment fell silent. Then George stood up. "Clear. Bomb deactivated." The entire apartment began applauding. Children crying, adults hugging, everyone running to George. Emma ran downstairs, hugged George. "Grandpa George, you really are a hero." "Yes, Emma, I'm your hero." Officer Martinez approached. "George, this is incredible. Perfect execution." "Thank you, officer. But this operation isn't over. Who placed this bomb? Why it was placed? Investigation is needed." 5 minutes later, the bomb squad arrived. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez examined George's work. "Perfect disarming. Textbook execution. Who are you?" "Retired Army EOD, Sergeant First Class George Patterson." "Patterson, I'd heard your name. You're a legend in Iraq. They called you the IED King." George nodded. "That's in the past, Lieutenant. But the skills remained. This operation will go in the manual." When FBI agent Michael Thompson arrived, he determined the bomb was professionally made. It was opened as a domestic terrorism case. "George, whoever made this bomb targeted you. You work in this apartment. They might know you." "Why would they target me?" "Because you're a threat. You have EOD background. If you weren't here, this bomb would have been successful." George thought. He'd been trying to live quietly for 15 years, but his past had found him. "Agent Thompson, I'm no longer active. I just want a quiet life." "But George, you're the community's protector. These people trust you." George looked at the apartment. Mrs. Wilson, the Johnson family, Alex Chen, Linda Martinez. They were all looking at him. "Yes, I'm their protector." The next day, news came out with headlines, "Hero Janitor Saves 89 Lives." George didn't want to give interviews, but apartment residents organized a ceremony for him. Mrs. Wilson made a speech. "George, you're our guardian angel. You've lived among us for 15 years, but today we learned you're a real hero." Alex Chen added, "George, you're not a tech expert, you're a life expert. What you taught us is big." Emma Johnson approached the microphone. "Grandpa George, you're the best hero. I love you." George took the microphone. "I'm not a hero. I'm just your neighbor. Your safety is my responsibility. This has been so for 15 years. It will continue to be so." A week later, George's former commanding officer, Colonel Robert Mitchell, came. He was seeing George for the first time since retirement. "Patterson, same as always, cool under pressure." "Sir, good to see you." "George, they're talking about you in the Army. Legendary EOD operation. You continue serving even as a civilian." "Sir, I'm just an apartment janitor." "No, George, you're a warrior. The battlefield changed, but the mission is the same. Protect the innocent." Colonel Mitchell gave George a special recognition plaque for continued service above and beyond from your military family. A month later, George still worked at the same apartment, maintaining the same routine. But now everyone knew that sometimes the greatest protectors work in the most ordinary-looking jobs. Emma Johnson had asked him, "Grandpa George, did you always know you were a hero?" George had smiled. "Emma, I always knew who I was. Others just didn't need to know." Why? Because real heroes don't become heroes to get praise. They They become heroes to protect people. Linda Martinez approached. George, you no longer have privacy. Are you sad? George surveyed the apartment. No, Linda, because now I understand that you can hide who you are, but you should never forget who you are. I'm George Patterson, both an apartment janitor and a former EOD expert. Together, they make me who I am. George still works at the same Manhattan Heights apartments. He still wears the same cleaning uniform, does the same maintenance work. But now everyone knows that sometimes the greatest protectors serve in the most ordinary-looking places. And maybe today, you passed by a protector without noticing. Tell us in the comments, have you ever encountered such a hidden protector? Someone you thought was ordinary but then learned their true identity. Don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Hero Stories. We share powerful stories like this every week. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, take another look at the ordinary-looking people around you. Maybe they're protecting you in ways you never knew.